Hey everyone, welcome to another interview with the Discussing Resilient podcast. I'm joined today with Kenny Boucher. Kenny, how are you doing?
Yo, dog, great to be here.
I was just saying to Kenny just off camera that my first encounter with Kenny actually was back for, as we were just talking, I'm a baby in the history of kind of playing Warhammer, but 4 years ago when I decided to play Death Guard, I banged Death Guard game into YouTube and saw Dice Check and basically saw this man playing Death Guard against Tyranids, I think was the first game with, is it Harridan on the table or the...
Oh, the Harridan fight. Yeah, that was... Yeah, no, that was a really important game for me because that we were going all through that like COVID lockdown stuff, and I had taken it upon myself to kind of revamp my personal like painting curriculum for my brand, and I felt like I was going to launch kind of the new material, the new syllabus with like my origins, which is Death Guard, because it's been a while since I rocked the Death Guard list, and so I just went back into the Beats lab and just worked feverishly on this, you know, like, I mean, like some of the videos that I launched about the course were like, let's, you know, Mortarion, how to paint the rhinos, how to paint the PVCs, like exactly all this stuff. Right. So it was really awesome to come to the down to San Diego to their Beats lab and get this game in because they were blowing up. Right. They were like, it was like the awesome, best live battle reports in the game. And I called them up, was like, yo, man, I got to get out of this house. Now that like the lockdown's kind of winded down, can I get a game in with you guys? He was like, hell yeah. He brought that big Harridan bar or whatever. And it was so oppressive in their Beats lab. It was so oppressive, right? Like they were like, we can't beat this guy in this nonsense. I was like, it's fine, you can bring it. And I just played it off like it was gonna be like, oh, it's gonna be, you know, you're gonna win. And the whole time I'm mentally scheming on how I'm gonna bait Matt into losing that game, which he did.
That was, I think that was, I think that was the game also that made me. So Death Shroud is I've always been my favorite models and unit in the game. Like the guy,
my Death Shroud in that fight, bro,
devastating. Like,
it hurt him so bad.
I'm pretty sure that game was probably responsible for the reason why I start every list with 6 and a Lord of Contagion. Like I don't write lists any other way. Like I'm kind of within our community very much known for kind of driving that unit, even when it's crazy expensive as it is now. So I think you might be partly to blame for that.
That is extremely validating to hear, Dave. Which I'm also ashamed to say I've never actually seen your guys' podcast, but many of my fans and viewers have been telling me about your podcast for like the solid like half a year.
Oh wow, okay, cool.
Yeah, and that's when it came up, right? People were like, yo, you gotta check out Discussingly Resilience podcast. And it kept coming up, and then that's where it came up in our more recent meetings to reach out to you guys. So like you are a huge driving influence for many people, especially in the painting community.
Well, that's really cool to hear. I mean, we're like, you know, like we're kind of mono faction fans. Like our entire thing is Death Guard. Like we got to cover the Codex in the UK. We did the launch with Vanguard Tactics. We got previews from GW of the Codex. Aiden and I did, and got to go down there. And we had about 2-3 weeks access to it beforehand, and then went and played a whole day of live battle reports. Did some masterclass work with them. So look, we've kind of I feel pretty good that we've kind of hoovered. It feels like we've kind of hoovered the entire Death Guard community into this one space, and we've got a load of people in a Discord that it's for a very toxic army. It's an incredibly non-toxic place.
Well said.
Yeah, good. So we've been doing it. Look, I think what I wanted to pick up with you on though, Kenny, was can we get into your background a bit? Like when did Warhammer crash into your life, or when did you crash into Warhammer's life? And how did that turn from, you know, kind of hobbying into you going, actually, there's a kind of career in the space of kind of in the content space and painting, and how that will change?
Yeah, that makes sense. So right out the gate, anybody who's listening to this, who's like, who's this guy? So my brand is Next Level Painting. If you don't recognize my name, you might recognize that brand. I started that actually, funnily enough, like tomorrow is the 15-year anniversary.
Wow. Congratulations, man. It's amazing.
Thank you. Good timing. It means a lot. Like it means a lot. Like 15 years in the space. Wow. 2010 October is when I started the commission painting studio, Next Level Painting. And so that's what I've been doing essentially for 15 years is painting armies. I would say I kind of got out of that game about 6 years deep And then roughly 9 years ago is when I kind of launched onto Twitch.
Okay.
And started doing more live streaming content, more education centric, where I'm trying to sell classes on Patreon, try to, convert leads in that kind of business model, and paint like for free live and give people as much advice as I can daily. So that's where I'm at now, more of like a modern like streamer.
Yeah.
But we started by cranking armies out, right? Going pro in 2 weeks, painting 2,000 point 5th edition armies every 2 weeks, And it was easy in 5th. I'm not gonna lie. 5th was easy because everything was like 4 rhinos or 4 razorbacks, 20 infantry models and like 3 tanks. Like, wow. It's like that was the easy days, bro. But I started in high school. I'm 42. So I think I started kind of like in my 11th grade or whatever that is. So at 1999, 2000 is when, and I was like right when 3rd launched.
Okay.
And so it was this big deal. The story I tell people is like my brother, who's also named David, he got me. He comes up a lot on the podcast. He's a wild man, but he was like, we need to play this game, and he was a super nerd, right? He was like, we gotta go do this, and I was like, okay, like let's go look. And I'm like, this is the stupidest shit I've ever seen, bro. Like, why are you trying to get me in on this? He's like, bro, I will buy you a model if you want to get in on this. I swear, we'll use my allowance money, bro. And I'm like, okay, let me just look at the shelves. We're like in a hobby town, USA, like not even like a legit game store for like the hobby space.
Yeah.
And they have a little Warhammer 40K section, all metal blisters. And I see Abaddon the Despoiler, the old metal joint,
the
Sorcerer, and Karn the Betrayer. And I'm like, I'm in. Buy me these. I'm in.
That's actually pretty good.
I'm in. And then it was chaos right out the gate.
Yeah.
Like chaos all day, every day. I saw a guy who had painted like a chess piece setup back in the same month.
Right.
Where like it was like Martius Calgar and all his peoples versus Abaddon and all his peoples. Like it was like all set up like a chess board.
That's
and I was like, oh my God, this is the best. And then as one does, then you see a dreadnought for the first time.
Yep.
Yeah. And then it's like, okay, yeah. Like it's in my veins now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I saw my first dreadnought, and then I got hooked on the chaos lifestyle. But in this era, you got to remember, we didn't have factions or legion factions, right? We had a book, Chaos Space Marines, and within it, you had units like Plague Marines,
sure,
Berserkers. We didn't have like a section of the codex that was like, this is how you play World Eaters. You had to like discover the lore. And that's something I miss, because now we have all the Horus Heresy novels and everything like that, which are dope. But I like that we had to read through the codex and get the snippets and read all the little boxes, and you had to piece the lore together. You know what I mean? And I loved it. And so the stuff we were like imagining in our head while reading the lore was so grand, right? And I remember the Death Guard stuff, right? And it spoke to me, bro. Like it spoke to me. And so I remember building my first quote unquote Death Guard army, which really wasn't a term people threw around a lot back in those days, because like it was just a Nurgle army, Plague Marines. And we had the plastic Plague Marine with the knife. And we would go and get the blisters. We had the cool like Power Fist guy. We had wood on the Power Fist. It was so sick, dude. And so I made my first army, but this was 3rd edition. So like this is the Rhino Rush era, where so I had like 4 squads of Plague Marines mounted up in rhinos. I had like and in this day and age, you would get like a Chaos Lord, and you could add like war gear to them, and you could make them a Sorcerer Lord. So I had like 2 Sorcerer Lords that had like the Stream of Corruption, like an flamer template of like Bile. Bro, I would like and I had 3 dreadnoughts, 3 dreadnoughts, and I would just be like, I was the happiest person in the world, bro. Like this was, and then my very second army was like, I made like the White Dwarf article had dropped, and they gave us rules for the first time, and it was for World Eaters.
Okay.
And so then my second like full force project, this is after meandering around, was that. So like my first 2 play pieces were Death Guard and World Eaters.
Yeah.
Full chaos, bro. I was like so enamored. And this is like early 2000s. I got on this forum I found called deathguard.org.
Okay.
And this guy named Ryan Powell was like the guy who built the forum. And he was like winning like Golden Demon Awards all around the country for painting Death Guard. it was so sick. And he was the guy who was doing like the pre-heresy colors the first time, like the old white stuff, right? And we were like, oh my God, like this is amazing. And so I remember being on that forum, everyone's posting pictures. I'm getting a lot of validation for my pictures for sure, but they're also trying to talk tactics. And every single one of these guys was locked into this, like, as I like to call it, a masturbation cocoon, where they don't want to look outside of what their idea of the lore is. And so they all hated me because I used rhinos.
Right.
Because they're like, that's not how Death Guard fight. They're an infantry, feet on the ground.
Forwards and
I was like, yeah, but like you had to like they didn't walk to the planet, dude. Like they didn't walk to the planet. And also when they landed on the planet, they didn't like walk to the other side of the planet, bro. They caught a ride, son.
Yeah.
Like, what are you're hustling against yourselves? Like, because walking across the table just gets you L's, dog. You know what I mean? Like, you want to win a game? Mount up. Exactly. And so I remember I was very controversial in the deathguard.org because I was the only guy winning games. I was only like they're all just losers, bro. Because they just inbred their own meta to we just walk around and shoot our bolters at stuff that don't kill anything. Because we also had armor value back in those days. So strength 4 bolters literally couldn't interact with any armor.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of like how it all started. Cool. And it transitioned into a business. Me just sitting in I lived in a trailer park. I was just sitting in my trailer, like pouring concrete for a living, like, which I enjoyed. But then I was like, man, I just came back from my friend Mike Dummer's birthday party, and he also poured concrete. And I was shocked when I saw that he was only 40 because I thought he was 60.
Right.
I was like, bro, Mike, I thought you were 40. He's like, oh no, I'm 60. He's like, I'm 40. I was like, what have you been doing, dude? He's like, I've been pouring concrete for 10 years. You're like, I was like, I need to get a new job, dude. Like, this is bad. And so then that's what like really motivated. And then the first person who bought me an airbrush to begin my brand was my mom, 40K Sue.
That's amazing.
And she bought my inventory for me because I did try to open my own game store once. Okay. And it failed. And she helped me out by buying my inventory from me. And then she started like an eBay career.
Okay.
And then this is many years later, and she's, known on eBay as 40K Sue, buying and selling lots. She's just like, hey, I'll buy you an airbrush if you want to pay some of these lots. 40K Sue bought me my first airbrush.
That's amazing, dude. So when did you kind of realize that you had a kind of a talent for doing for the painting side of things?
I mean, since day one, I'm an artist, like, right? So like I came into this space as an artist. Okay. But modifying to airbrushing was thanks to, because I'm like kind of like known in the space for like bringing airbrushing to the mainstream. Yep. It was like me and Buy Painted back in the day. Okay. And we only guys out there airbrushing. I mean, I got a lot of hate for airbrushing. Everyone, like I would post it on DACA forums. People were like, it's cheating. This is like 2010, 2011, 2012. I was like, damn right, it's cheating, dog. Like, I mean, you're not cheating, you're not trying at painting, bro. I ain't trying to sit here for like 4 days trying to just put a base coat on a guy. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so, but I was cashing checks, bro. People wanted the commissions. That was thanks to GMM Studios. If you guys haven't ever heard of this guy, Gray Matter Musings, GMM Studios, check him out on Instagram. This guy's like, a lot of people don't know who this person is. He's easily the most prolific commission painting studio in possibly in the world. He's a one-man operation. This guy, Brandon Palmer's his name. He was on my old Warhammer 40K like gaming club back in the day. Right. 40K Wrecking Crew. And he's like, you need to start airbrushing today, Kenny. And I was like, you're right. And then my mom bought me that airbrush. So like these two influences made me modify my art system into something that was attainable and sustainable for workflow strategies. And I had to kind of develop it as I was going because I had to paint them at an equitable rate. But I needed to get I needed my customers to not have buyer's remorse when they got the models in the mail.
Yeah, it helps.
Yeah. So I spent 6 years kind of developing that system, which is what I teach full time on Twitch and Patreon now.
Yeah. Am I right in thinking as well that you've kind of taken you've built your own kind of approaches to painting and to developing armies and trying to kind of break maybe the traditional hobby approach that people take to painting stuff? Is that fair?
That is yeah. Both my parents are teachers. And so when I went back to the drawing board after I tried to launch my course years and years and years ago. And the Death Guard are what let me reform the course into something good. The Death Guard you saw in Dice Check.
Yeah.
Because I realized something simple. If you don't have like a curriculum or a syllabus or step-by-step, you're not actually teaching.
Yeah.
Because a lot of painters, what they do is they say, hey, sign up for my masterclass. Then you go and do your first class with them, your first lesson. And they're like, what do you want to learn, Dave? What do you want to learn about painting today? And then you're like, oh, this is great. Show me how to paint my Death Shroud. And that's the easiest thing in the world for me. Like, I'm just answering your questions and not really teaching you anything, right? So I realized that, and then I went back to the drawing board during COVID, and we have all this literature, all these documents, all these like spotlight videos, gear lists, everything. It's like I give people the syllabus just for free for asking, and they're like, bro, all I needed was the syllabus to upgrade my game. I was like, I know. It's like that's the significance of a real course, right? And I do everything one-on-one. So ultimately, I did have to redefine, make my own terms up, my own definitions, my own order of operations, and it's all based on the trenches, being in the trenches for 6 years, cranking armies out every 2 weeks, right? It's all based on actual success.
Real experience.
Like, to answer that, that's like my origin story to this moment. Then at some point we started a podcast, The Long War, got on YouTube, got on Twitch. Every time technology shifted over, like we were blogging and they were like, everyone's on this podcast thing. We should do that. And then we're talking on podcasts. And then we're like, oh, but also they like to see your face, and then we're live streaming, talking on podcasts. You know what I mean?
It's funny, isn't it? It's I mean, year before. So my history was back in the games industry, and before YouTube came along, I was I can't even remember the name of this platform. It was like one of the first video sharing platforms, and I was working in the games industry as a buyer, so I was getting access to like seeing all the trailers for everything before anyone else was seeing them and stuff. I was getting sent copies of them, so I literally got I had my work laptop. I had an Xbox 360 webcam, and I literally was editing like videos together and making trailers of like upcoming video, and then like talking over them, and then adding that track, and then sticking it up on this site. And
that's wild.
It wasn't a huge range of places to go. That place was like, they were getting kind of 50,000 views or whatever and stuff, and then I was like, I've got a proper job, I haven't got time to keep doing this. And then 2 and a bit years later, YouTube launches, and then it takes off over the next couple of years. And it's funny to look back at doing this now, back at that time then, and be like, wow, that was kind of weird to be like thinking that, or starting to kind of mess around in that space then, and it's come kind of full circle with a different kind of hobby and an industry.
It really has, and it's difficult to even keep up with what's like the strategies, the techniques, what people are interested in. Like, I gave up on YouTube years ago. Like, people are always asking me, like, "Oh, when's your next YouTube video come out?" I was like, "Never, dude." Like I don't like. It was the Wild West when we started. It was really fun. It was a good space. For me, but the audience has shifted. What they want is different than what I provide. And I just can't keep up with the like 25 hours of work to put on a 10-minute video to make literally $5.
Yeah.
Like, I've never made more than $200 in a month on YouTube in all the years I've been doing this. So I have a body of work that exists entirely for free on YouTube that can get any painter off the ground.
That's awesome.
If you follow if you want to grind it out, like free to play. And so I don't need to paint another Black Templar video. I don't need to paint another, like everyone's like, you're going to paint another Black Templar video? No, I already have that. Yeah. Like
it exists.
It exists already, bro. The technique really hasn't shifted. It's just maybe the products have. So if you find that video and you want to know more, find me on Twitch and I'll answer questions, for free in real life.
So where can they, we'll do this kind of stuff is going, but like, where can people find you on Twitch? What's your
Next Level Painting? Cool.
So great. Okay, good. So let's jump into stuff, I guess, before we go into, I guess, what you're doing next as well, and kind of what you're getting involved into, because that's really exciting. But so, what was it kind of with Death Guard? Like, was it literally the first time you kind of were like, you saw a Plague Marine? Was it the when you saw we started reading the lore? Because for me, it was
lore.
The Buried Dagger, because I was reading the lore before I ever played the game. And during lockdown, one of my good buddies who plays Custodes basically hassled the crap out of me to start playing the game. He's like, you've been reading the books for years, and unfortunately for him, I happened to be reading a Death Guard book at the time, kind of early 9th, and then went and bought a Death Guard army, and then started playing against his Custodes. And as soon as I learned the rules, kind of that game became very hard for him, because Death Guard was immediately the hard counter for Custodes. So that's kind of where I certainly was like, I like the sound of these guys, I like the fact that they're desperately kind of clinging on to trying to be a legion, yeah, are in this kind of the enrapture of one of the gods, and I like I love the kind of lore of the the kind of indomitable toughness, but yeah, that kind of the ongoing ever entropy, but it's never ending entropy. It's always declining, like it's always getting worse, but contradictorily making
entropy. Yeah, it's like that's the course of the galaxy, right? That's like the natural order of things, and they accept that, like, and that's like everything you just said, like, yeah, like, and I would say, remember I told you, like, the Horus Heresy novels, when that launched, that like kind of put all the lore in one place for us to understand, like, especially the history of the Primarchs. I wasn't necessarily on board with that when it started because it was kind of competing with my headcanon, but it was so awesome to hear like official like stories of how the Primarchs came to exist, right?
Yeah.
And like some Mortarion's story was pretty wild to me. But I would say, like, flipping through the old 3.5 codex, the artwork was slapped. So like the Plague Marine page was so sick, and then everything I read was so sick, and kind of the headcanon and like snippet canon I had to put together, being on deathguard.org, there was this concept that like really sold me on them. Okay. And it's like, it's like really easy for someone to walk the path of Khorne, right? Yeah. Because even a hero, right, honor, pride, can walk that path. Excess, for Slaanesh, anyone, these paths make super logical sense to people, right? But they're like, how does someone walking, Nurgle's path even make sense? That doesn't make sense. It's like, here's how it makes sense. It's the entropy you talked about. Within all humanity exists this concept, the will to let it all rot away. Yeah. Like, forget it all. Like, what if I just stopped? What if I stopped caring? Like that path, that's always in every sentient like creature's mind. Yeah. And I'm like, that's actually the most logical argument I ever heard for like the access to like giving yourself to, Nurgle. And when you really get into Nurgle, you realize he's not like the Lord of Death. He's the Lord of Life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
He's like a secret space Buddha. Like, cause he's like all life. He doesn't think a person is any more or less valuable than a fly.
No.
So when he lays waste to a system, he actually creates life.
Yeah, exactly. It's the whole thing of you can't build something till you destroy it.
Yeah, like, and I'm like, this is wildly complex and logical. Like,
it's way deeper than it looks on the surface. Mm-hmm. So that will same as you. That all really kind of spoke to me. And then, then I like the aesthetic of the models obviously as well. Like, and obviously,
especially the new stuff that you got into when you launched, bro. That's the best stuff we've ever gotten.
Yeah, I feel lucky. I kind of got into it when at the time I did. I think so I was really lucky in that. You're not gonna like this, but like I don't hobby at all. Like the bit I like of it is the playing. So, but it's really important to me that my opponent, whom at a tournament I may and most likely have never met before, and I'm spending 3 hours across the table from somebody, it's really important that they've got something nice to look at. So actually, this kind of service you offer is there's some people I work with who I get to commission. I've got people who do vehicles. I've got a guy who does vehicles for me. I've got a guy who does Terminators when I need those. I've pretty much got everything possible now. But I was lucky. I saw a guy on eBay who I saw some listings, and there were like 50 odd listings, but they were all clearly the same army. They were the same painted lot. So basically, I found his details and contacted him and said, "Look,
how much for the lot, dude?
Like, I'll take all of it, but like, kind of,
take it off of eBay, work me a deal."
He was like, "Oh, well, I've got the listing, kind of." And I was like, "I don't care, whatever." Like, put it together, and then he was like, "Oh, and by the way, I've also got Mortarion." Which wasn't on eBay, and so he sent me the Instagram link post to it, and I was just like, "Yeah, that's definitely coming in as well." So I ended up then with an immediately nice, large kind of
like collection of models to pick from.
Yeah, and it was so I was able to play the game with it, and then once kind of getting him to put him on the table, also really enjoyed the way it played as well, which is and it's the lore, like you said, the lore's so important to how you connect to the game, because people are playing out those battles a little bit in their heads, right? Even when you're doing.
That's the secret. That's the hobby in the hobby. Yeah. Is the fantasies, like it's the fantasy of your next list, of your next iteration, like scheming in the app, building the list over and over again. That is like what I spend most of my time on, not actually painting or playing. Like that is so important. I love that.
Yeah, and I think the moments when like you have these like these crazy little moments on the table, like you talked about Khan earlier, right? It's like you're playing against some guy and he's got like Khan, and Khan's surrounded by a whole load of stuff, and then Khan just kills everything, and you're like that's what he would do. Like if that was, and he,
Bro, I can remember moments from games that happened 20 years ago.
yeah, they really stick with you.
Like,
Yeah,
every game of 40K you play is a little micro universe that you and your opponent created. It will never happen again.
Yeah.
Like the events of that game will never happen again. They're just in your mind. Like I love that shit.
It's the beauty of it being a dice-based game as well, in that everything is down to chance. Like I said, that you can't replicate that series of events ever again.
No.
So I think that's super cool. What's your what's been your, if you can, because you've probably painted so much, from a Death Guard perspective, what has been your favorite thing to paint?
That's easy. I mean, like by my math, I'm like the Death Guard army that you saw me play on Dice Check, that was the newest iteration, like that expansion, and I sold that, right? So that's a guy, a friend of mine named Ender, named Josh, and so I currently don't have a Death Guard army in my collection. I have just Chaos right now, but that was like the 8th iteration of my own personal Death Guard army that I painted for myself, but I've painted like so many more, like from the commission painting days to that moment. Yeah. But that was like my 8th personal Death Guard army. And of all the years of painting and all the model updates, it has just gotten better and better, and all the add-ons in the market, you know what I mean? Like it's, like I used to be like, oh, the hot tech was these Forge World doors on my Rhino.
Yeah, I've got those on mine.
You know what I mean? That was the hot tech. Yeah. And then I got some Spellcrow like doors and tops with all this Nurgle stuff. And I was like, this is the hot tech. Like, so, 3D printing now, I got some sick dozer blades. That's the hot tech now, right? Like it's always evolving. Mortarion was pretty awesome. My Mortarion video. Yeah. I've got like the public cut on YouTube. Mortarion was an amazing project. I waited my entire Warhammer 40K life for Mortarion. So like it has to be him. Yeah, right. Like the whole time I've been playing this game since like 1999 till that moment, it finally happened. That experience, no one can take that away from me. Like doesn't matter if I don't own them anymore. Like that's inside my heart forever. Yeah. Painting Mortarion was like so cathartic. Right now, the Death Shroud Terminators, your favorite unit, were an insane project to paint them at like a top level to match the rest of my army. Was a shocking investment in time, like shocking. But I'll tell this to anyone who's ever, oh man, this is taking so long. God damn, this unit. I was like, bro, investment and entertainment, because ultimately we're doing this hobby for entertainment. So if you are painting your own stuff and you're also playing and everything, I want you to look at like how cheap a box of like how much it costs to buy 3 Death Shroud with money. Then I want you to paint them, time yourself, and then by the end, you'll find out that that was like $1 an hour entertainment, dude. Yeah, it was like fiercely mathematical, good money spend,
Value for money.
Like it took me like 200 hours to paint my Death Guard, my Death Shroud. Because like I had to bring them to the same quality level I brought everything else to. Yep. And it was a time sink, bro. I was like, this is crazy. I mean, I could streamline it for sure now, but I was like, I'm not cutting any corners. Everything's, but then at the end, I was like, man, the joy of finishing that project can never be taken from me. So that was like second. Mortarion, Death Shroud. Like those are the two, like, and all these characters that they have now. Oh my God. So fun.
We're still really blessed with the fact that the range is so deep and so wide, with kind of from like say rhinos and stuff. I mean, the bit I was, I guess the thing I didn't appreciate fully was, and I don't know how rampant it was earlier, was when stuff goes into legends. So when I was building the army up, I had my favorite. The favorite thing I ever got from one of the commission painters that did something for me was I had a Legion Falchion in pallid hand. And it was the most incredible model, all weathered, rust streaked. Like it was literally like this thing has been in the hold of a ship for 10,000 years and is like being rolled out. And when I did my first LVO, I actually took it to LVO for a laugh and played in it and had such a laugh with it. and then got back from LVO, and I mean the model was not cheap, and then to get it commissioned to the level I got it was not cheap, and then literally I got back from LVO and it got legended, and then all the Contemptors got legended and the Leviathans, and I was just like,
that was because the first hot minute, like the Death Guard tech revolved around some Contemptors. You know what I'm saying?
The Death Guard, yeah, you know that one. Like I mean,
I paid it. I have three like somewhere on Instagram. I got these 3 Contemptors. I use Green Store World, like Green Stuff Tentacle Maker, and I made them so amazing with the what was the mortal wound weapon we were using? What was it?
The Volkite that basically was
Volkite, yeah, the twin Volkite, right? And then you have your little demon prince near him and your little tally man. You remember that? That was just over the
middle. And you're like, cool.
I'd shoot my little drone up and then hit you with the little plague flamer, then play my stratagem to make everything plague weapons, Bro, that was, but I put a lot of minutes into that too. And then they did, legend them, which sad. And I wish they didn't do that. For the record, I wish they didn't do that. I wish they just let me have my toys forever. But simultaneously, you can't take that experience from me, and I understand the decision.
Yeah, I understand. The game's got to move on, right? And I think I'm fine with it now. Like it was very sore for about
because you had a lot of success with it when it was happening. So it's disappointing to take my success from me and my collection.
Yeah, that was more the thing for me was that I was. It wasn't so much that because I probably do 5 super majors a year and then maybe another couple of events and like small events, but so I don't play. I wouldn't even play those models at my local club or whatever if I go and play there because it's not practicing for playing the competitive games. So yeah. I was like, I don't have use for these now, and I ended up. Luckily, I found a Death Guard Horus Heresy forum on Facebook,
and you were able to find somebody.
Make sure at least those models went to people who are playing Death Guard and would really want them in their armies. So that was kind of a nice way to kind of move it on, but. Yeah, I think that was cool. And so, what's I guess let's get on to kind of the next bit of like. So, you're getting involved in a really, really, really exciting event. Like when I first heard about it when you guys kind of got in touch and we first started chatting. But actually, then clicking the link and going, "Have me a look," I was like, "This thing sounds really fucking cool." Actually, so
oh, dude,
give us a bit of tell us how you got involved and
so bourbonandbolters.com, right? That's what he's talking about. Bourbon and Bolters. So this is business that I started aside. And when I say I started, I mean like the guys you're talking to, like Arthur and Ronan.
Yeah, sure. So
these are my business partners, right? Because though I'm a businessman, they're realized businessmen, right? Like they're the real deal. Yeah. And Arthur's been helping us with the Long Ward doubles for years, right? We've done so our podcast, The Long Ward, does a kind of like a mercenary doubles event. Nice. We do one at Adepticon and one at LVO every year. And the one at Adepticon, for example, has 130 teams.
Wow.
So it's like a legitimate super major, we've been doing that for a decade. And Arthur, he's like a professional CFO and CPA. He has really helped us cultivate our scorecard, our bookkeeping, and our like how we do everything. And he's been integral. He even saved my business once in 2016 because of taxes. Yeah. He's an amazing dude. And so him and Ronan came to me and they're like, we have this idea. I think Ronan was the one who was like, I just sent my wife on like this all-inclusive like wine trip. And it's like, he's like, it's like a women's trip, like a women's retreat. He's like, and she had so much fun. It was all inclusive. And he was like, why don't we have one of those?
My retreat. Yeah,
exactly. He's like, where's ours? Yeah. And I was like, that's a good idea. Let's get Arthur in on this call and let's see what we can do. Arthur was like, yeah, man. And so we got it going. The whole idea is small classroom size, 24 players, like premium. We don't want it to get, because if it gets too big, it's not going to be like, it will dilute the luxury.
Yeah.
So we did some location scouting. We found an incredible venue called the Black Stallion in the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Yep. We secured that venue. It's like a giant luxury mansion, Airbnb, essentially. Wow. And we got a vendor, Bazooka Games, to come in. So we got all our tables and our terrain. And then it was about approaching some industry people. So we got Brad Chester, he's a personal friend of mine, to come in and do the coaching. And he's going to be the TO of the weekend RTT. Cool. But it's a week long, all inclusive, right? So then we want to do Crusade games through the week. We got Mike Haspel. He's co-host on my podcast, but also he's a former Black Library author.
Yep.
So like he's running our Crusade League throughout the week that moves into the RTT at the end of the week. We got Goobertown Hobbies, my man Brent, and Casey from eBay Miniature Rescues. They're coming by, and what they're going to do that whole week is they're going to paint an entire 2,000-point Jakari army.
Oh, sweet.
And they're going to film it, and they're going to let people kind of drop in, drop out, and learn their speed painting techniques and their stamping technique for their big product they have. I'm going to be doing airbrush boots on the ground the whole week. And it's expensive, but like the booze is covered, the food is covered, everything is fancy, everything's luxury. And the whole idea is like unapologetically, ludicrously fancy, like preposterous. Like the whole idea is preposterous, like rich mahogany and leather bound books. You know what I mean? Like smoking jackets. You know what I mean? Like over the top, bro. And also a big selling point that Arthur and Ronan were big on was like, I never want somebody to have to play more than 2 games a day. Right. And so if it's going to be that long, you're playing 2 Crusade games a day. And then we have running like a nightly Rogue Trader event, single elimination called the Nighthawk Tournament. So you might play 3 games in one day, spaced throughout the entire day. Yeah. But it's like if you lose a game, you're out, right? So like, and then you can kind of float around the convention and drop into any one of these other systems that you want to interact with, while having free booze, free eats, fancy food, swag bags. I can't even tell you, Dave. I've reached out to a lot of my sponsors.
Tell me some of the stuff that's in there.
I can tell you. So like a lot of my sponsors came in clutch, and Game Envy, Monument Hobbies, Elric's Hobbies, just to name 3. And I told them what we're doing, and I want some like swag bag items. And I was just thinking they were like, yeah, we'll send you like the token 3 items, like little things, so you're gonna fill out the swag bag. Bro, Game Envy is like everyone gets an exemplar wet palette and a cup and a full set of brushes. Nice. I was like, that's just in the swag bag, dude. That's like that's one guy. That's one guy. Yeah. He's like, yeah, everyone gets one. And then Elric's Hobbies is like, we're gonna send everyone like our gift box, which is like valued at $100.
Wow. And
Monument Hobbies makes sure is same thing. Everyone gets a set of paints, everyone gets a miniature, and everyone gets paintbrushes as well. So like if you want to drop into my airbrush course, you already have the paints in your hands and a model.
Got everything you need pretty much, right? Almost.
Like, I mean, this amount of swag, like I'm telling people, you might need to bring a spare luggage, dude. Just walking in the door, dude. Like, it's crazy. That's just 3 sponsors, right? We've got a beer sponsorship from a brewery, and we got to swing by because I got to swing by Rob Bear's place on the way up and get all of our swag and like 80 cases of sponsored beer, like for our event, like veteran owned, brewed for bourbon and bolters. Nice. Like in addition to all the other stuff going on, right? So that's just like some of the ideas. And also like we have like 9 tickets left still on the list.
Yeah, I think you guys have done pretty well on that front already. And when is the event exactly?
It's gonna be January, late January. So now that LVO doesn't exist in January, we jumped into that spot.
Good idea.
And so I know it's not the easiest to swing. January is always kind of tough, but the demographic for this event is different, right, than the normal gamer. People, this is premium, private, luxury, and just over the top fun, right? We're even shuttling people in from the airport, right? Like we're like
so where what's it? So if someone's coming internationally, like what's the route in? Which airport is it in? Is it near to kind of?
Yeah, so like going to the Outer Banks of North Carolina, there is an airport. I think it's about 45 minutes from there. Okay. And so we are shuttling. We're coordinating with our ticket purchasers to figure out our shuttle schedule, which we're just going to handle ourselves, right? We're just we have a van, and we're just going to chauffeur for our clientele, make sure that they, as many times as it takes to pick people up and make sure that they arrive on time and don't have to worry about Ubering or figuring things out, because it's luxury, bro. Yeah, we're trying to provide that top tier experience, like over the top. So people internationally, no one has picked up a ticket internationally, of course, because it's not necessarily. It might not be aimed directly kind of in that manner, but it is open to you, right? If someone wants to come. Anyone, literally anyone for sure, right? Like, so many people are flying in from other parts of the United States, but no one internationally yet. But like, you'd get a survey, you'd fill it out, like what you're drinking, like what you're interested in. so we could populate the bar with the tat, you know, like, and we pick you up. And it's
like, and how long did it take you guys to kind of come up with the idea and the concept, and then from that then going, right, we're going to book something and let's jump in and see if we can make this thing happen?
Pretty quick. I'd say we only had a few meetings before we all agreed. Nice. Then my business guys built the business. They got the money correct. It has been compared to the Fire Festival, which is hilarious. Some people are like, this is like a Fire Festival of 40K. I'm like, I mean, I understand why you would say that, but like, rest assured, Arthur and Ronan, like, we have 25-minute meetings that are just on spreadsheets.
Oh yeah. So that's an actual business. As somebody who works in corporate business, I can.
Yeah, like it's literally making sure that nothing is like over allocated or under allocated. Everything is constantly evolving based on predictions. But they got it off the ground pretty quick. Then we did our location scouting. That took like about a month. Yep. Then we came up with the Outer Banks, the Black Stallion, and we pulled the trigger. And like, it was kind of a big deal because we had to put the deposit non-refundable. Yeah, of course. And we had to put that deposit down before we even had ticket sales. Yeah. So like, you know, so we put that deposit down, and then we had to get to a threshold where we owed the balance, and we had to make a real decision with the business. Do we believe in this enough to lose money if it doesn't, like, we don't get enough? Yep. And we all looked at the numbers, how excited we were about the project. And we said, yeah, we do believe in it enough. And so then we put down the non-refundable, and knowing that we could potentially lose personal money now, you know, and we just kept believing in it and kept pushing it forward. And now we're at like a roughly break-even status, but it's really the best ideas aren't about like, you know, how we can make a ton of money. Yeah. It's more about how can we provide an exceptional product, because you will discover that the two are the same. Right. Like,
I think as well you'll get is if you do this event and you deliver it as you're going to, like, to you know, a high standard, and people come away from it being like, why have we not done this? Why something like this not existed before? Then when it does come to it, when you guys do the following year, you know that you know how to run the event. People know what to expect because they can literally hear it from word of mouth from people who've actually been. And then, you know,
we have a film crew coming in to film it too, exactly like you're saying, so that we can show everyone after the event what it was like, you know. And I think the idea too is like, it's Bourbon and Bolters for now. That's the name of the business. That's not necessarily the name of the event.
Yeah.
But so the first one is Bourbon and Bolters. Cool. Right. But the idea is that we don't necessarily need to be locked into running one a year. And they don't need to always be in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And we've already location scouted similar venues in different states with completely different themes.
That's a cool idea.
So like with the idea, so they would have their own theme based on where you are. Right. Like, and so that's the goal if we can get it to sustain itself. But for now, it's like, can we just throw a really awesome event with some of my favorite people in the industry showing up, providing, you know, one-on-one, you know, interactions with people, you know, like Brad Chester, one-on-one, Brett from Goobertown, one-on-one, me, one-on-one, like actual really nice, no rush, chill vibe.
That's pretty cool. I think it's a great idea for it. And like you said, the whole, just let alone it being kind of a Warhammer thing, just that kind of the option to go for people to have that kind of retreat and do something of their in their own time and kind of take that space, and then to combine that with a hobby that you know, people have often been in for many years, feels like a really good thing. And I like the fact you guys have wrapped it then with kind of food and the drink and in a nice location, and just to kind of, because you could have done it in, you know, anywhere, right? You could have been like, oh cool, well, it's 5 days in this kind of.
I could have done it for a tenth of the price at any convention center in almost any state.
Yeah, but it's that doesn't make it any different or special. So
no, it's got to be unapologetically over the top, bro.
Yeah, I think that's really awesome. And what's your can you give us a bit more of an insight into what you're going to be doing specifically at the event?
My role is I'm an instructor. I'm going to be playing in the Rogue Trader Tournament. Don't get it twisted. And I'll see if I can get some pickup games while I'm there. But the idea is that I'll have my airbrushing station set up that people can drop in and out of at any time throughout the event. So the idea is having like unfettered access to the class. Yeah. You know, instead of when you go to a LVO or something, you're like, okay, I signed up for these 4 classes at these exact times. Yeah. It's like, I'm right here, dude. Anytime, anywhere. You know, like I can have one guy working on a different thing than a different guy. There's only 24 players max, and I doubt all 24 will want to airbrush at the exact same time.
Well, yeah, sure.
Like, and even then, I can still handle that. Like, so it's really just a la carte, course access, like class access to multiple different options.
Is there any additional kind of secret things you can leak about the event, or anything that's kind of maybe people don't know about it yet? Or?
Well, our current, so I just went to LVO, the double turn year, right? Yeah, and we just ran up in the same year. It's so hard, bro. Like, it's so hard. Jake made me come. Like, he's like, you have to come, bro. Like, you have to run your event. And I'm glad we did, because even though LVO was down in their numbers, which is understandable, because they couldn't just wait till like next October. Yeah. That's impossible. And it was amazing. It did look good. The tables were incredible. They were all like, it was like SoCal Open vibes. Like, all the tables were islands. It was amazing. Convention center was great. And even though they were down half, we were only down like 15%. Wow. So people still came to our event. Like, and I was like, I'm glad I came. You're right. Like, these people want to play the doubles, because kind of a big part of our brand, even though I've always styled myself as a competitive player, which I'm less competitive these days, more focused on, my current life. Yeah. But a big part of it is always like bringing hobby back. And that means bringing hobby scores back. Because back in the old days, we had battle scores and like hobby scores. Yeah. And then eventually, that switched to its win-loss. And it's not about the battle scores, are more like tiebreakers and seeding scores. Yeah. Right. So we wanted an event, Longboard doubles, that like let's say somebody was down to play tournaments all the time. Okay. And then like their friend was just kind of getting into it. And you're like, hey, let's go play this tournament. And he's like, I don't know, man, I'm not ready. And you're like, it's cool. It's a doubles event. I'll be there. And then it's like a gateway to letting people have fun, low stress. So that's kind of always been in the background of my mind. So it was important that still existed. And much of that is influenced Bourbon and Bolters, though there is a real competitive RTT at the end of the week. But the Crusade games kind of leading up to it, it's all about that, like, kind of low stress, kind of just work it out, get your momentum, and then have that experience. Because a lot of people don't have, especially a lot of people who could afford the ticket, which is, I think, the base ticket's like over 3 Gs for the all-inclusive purchase. A lot of people who can afford that ticket might not necessarily be in a situation where they get to play as much 40K as they want. Yeah, absolutely. And so this is a way for them to experience that, if that makes sense. But here's what I did learn. The only thing about LVO that wasn't good was having to shuttle back and forth from the Nugget to the venue. That was a bit of a downer. But there's a hotel that just opened up across the street. Yeah. And Jake was like, it opened before we start, after we started doing everything. So I have no deals with them, no negotiations with them. He's like, but I'm negotiating with them fiercely to see if that could be an option for next year. Yeah, I think, and that would change the game.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was I was watching. So Joe from War Games Live was basically one of you, was the pre-interview to you on an episode, and he was telling me a lot about the kind of the LVO setup, where it was going, kind of what his plans were with it and stuff. So when I watched his streams this year, you could see that the tables were, like you said, you could walk around the table.
Islands.
You could walk around. Yeah, that was stunning. It looked really good. I was definitely.
I was so pleased with that, bro. Like, people were, and so, but I think the initial question,
the atmosphere of the whole place.
So it's because they used to run this event called SoCal Open. Yeah. And it was like that. It was one of the best frontline gaming events in SoCal. And it was in like a equestrian center. And we had this like big permanent structure, almost airplane hangar. And it's like 300 players. All tables were set up as islands. Nice. Beer vendor in there and a food truck outside. It was so awesome. And it felt that way because they had food trucks outside. They had great catering, food inside. But here's like the fancy thing you were like, is there a secret? So while we were there, we went out, me and Arthur, to get some coffee. And they had like just like a coffee caterer, like almost like interior, like barista food truck setup. Like, and I'm like sitting there, like looking at the menu, like all of it's fancy coffees, right? Like lattes and Americanos, everything's espresso based. They have a little machine. Like kind of like you would see at Starbucks, but much more small, and like it's just 2 people running it. Prices were good. Ordered a latte. Arthur got an Americano. And I was like, man, this is good. I was like, wait, are you guys like a coffee caterer? They're like, yeah, this is our link right there. We have two main locations, and people pay us to come to these events and set up. I was like, Arthur, we need that for Bourbon and Bolters, dude. We didn't even think about this. He's like, oh my God, you're right. So we just had a meeting about that. So
yeah, that'd be amazing. I mean, like you can imagine kind of a couple of, one day in, like having enjoying a few beverages in the evening or whatever, and coming down to play
and waking up to fancy handcrafted coffee, bro. Nice. I was like, we forgot about that. We need them to come to our event. So that's what we're working on right now. That's the new development.
Dude, that's super cool. Look, I think it sounds really good, and I think hopefully I would hope these last 9 tickets are not going to be too difficult for you guys to move through, and then I'm personally will look forward to hearing all about it and seeing any of the content you guys make afterwards, and hopefully this can become a permanent addition to the 40K calendar for on an ongoing basis.
I would hope so, and there are other luxury options out there. Like we're not the first.
Sure,
we're not the first.
So.
But we are going to be absolutely the fanciest, no doubt.
So so just to remind everybody, where can they go to look up the event, buy a ticket, anything else they need? What's the address for it?
Yeah, bourbonandbolters.com. It's that simple. Check out the website. It's got all the information about the venue. You have a drop down to purchase which room you want, because that's how your ticket purchase works. Yep. Is we have a certain amount of fixed rooms at the venue, and you have to buy the room, right? Cool. So they're doubles in case somebody wants to come, like if a person wants to come with a buddy. Yep. And it is a hefty discount to come in and as a double. Yeah, it is a substantial discount. So yeah, bourbonandbolters.com. We talk about it at my show, Next Level Painting on Twitch, Tuesdays and Fridays. We podcast on Wednesdays. I actually podcasted last night, but it was funny because Rob told me a week ago, but I was going to LVO and I kind of forgot. He was like, I don't think I'm gonna be here this Wednesday. I was like, oh, it's cool. And then my Cats Bowl, he's got this like other thing he's doing where sometimes he can't make it. Right. And I'm sitting here by myself. I'm like, oh, it's just me. Whoops. And so I just did like a little 50-minute live last night and a little hangout. I was like, this is not even a podcast. So there's no podcast right now for the Long War this week, but also, since I'm on your platform, let me just congratulate Call of the Void Dragon. They are the tag team champions of the Long War Doubles, LVO 2025, the double turn year, meaning next year you need to unify the belt with the January winners.
Does it run? Does your event run in parallel to the main event at LVO, or is it a?
No, you can play both, assuming you didn't make top bracket. Okay. Which actually makes it kind of hard. I want to move our event to like Thursday now that the event's bigger. Yeah. And Jake was too nervous to try it this year because this year was so in flex. Because that's one of the reasons we're so successful at it. Yeah, Adepticon, we're super successful because it's not after everything. It's its own day. Yeah. Right? And so it's so hard to play the champions all weekend and then be like, and I'm going to play the doubles, bro. You're burnt out, son.
But dude, so I went to play LGT.
How was that?
Yeah, dude, 1,100 people.
Yeah, it's the new record, right?
Yeah, it's the new record, and I did the doubles Friday night. So when I say it starts 12:30 in the afternoon, finishes at 10:30 at night, and then you're back in at 9:30 the next morning for the singles. So it was like that was savage, but it was really good fun. There were 51 teams at the doubles, which I think is the biggest the doubles has been as well. So
oh wow, it's good.
With 100 at it is a big number.
Oh man, and it takes a while to build it to ramp it up. And I'm a huge fan of teams. Yeah, is that what you guys did?
Yeah. So basically, I was like, I'll make everything weaker, and then you can go and hit it. Like,
I love that.
But I did have to remind my partner that when he went into the singles, that he didn't have -1 toughness. Like I was like, don't go rolling dice that you've got because you don't have that thing, dude.
Recall, that was me.
Yeah,
and I think doubles work so well in 10th edition. Yeah, because of the way the keywords work now.
Yeah, it does.
Because we get questions every now and then. They're like, does this work with this? I was like, what does the keyword say? They're like, well, it says Astartes units. I was like, are those Astartes units? They're like, yeah. I was like, so yes. Then I'm like, sometimes it says the same thing. And I'm like, are those Astartes units? They're like, no. I was like, but back in the day, shit didn't say that. Shit said friendly units.
Right. Oh wow. Not even like Imperium or Chaos.
No, we didn't have faction keywords, bro. Back in so when I got into doubles back in the day, bro, like Blood Angels, Feel No Pain Aura from the Novitiate, friendly models. Wow. I'm like, these Thunderwolf Cavalry are technically my friendly models, right? You know what I mean? Like, so like it was the Wild West pre faction keyword days.
Stories from people at my club or people in events that have been playing since those kind of times of how it used to be. So yeah, I think there's a bit of me that's jealous that it's a bit less fluffy, but then there's a bit of me that's like, it feels that it's much more set up for the kind of world that I'm used to playing.
Oh, dude, people like you who started in the modern edition, right? Like 8th on, that's like the modern right take. And so we haven't had a new edition of Warhammer 40K since 3rd. 3rd was the new edition, right? Moving off a 2nd. So everything was still technically 3rd when even 4th, even 5th, even 6th, even 7th. Those are all still, because if you play an edition where your codex can still be played in the new edition, it's technically the same edition, bro. It's the same core. Sure. So we did that. So they didn't implode that until 8th when they said it's reset index. I was like, this is the first new edition, guys. So that's the modern era where we got stratagems, command points, resource mechanics, like all this stuff like that. We didn't have that before. So then 8th and 9th were the same core. And now we have 10th, which you can see is heavily influenced by 9th and 8th, but more refined. And I will say it's, even though competitive play is at the all-time high, I mean, we had 2 1,000-point tournaments inside of the same year. That's never happened before. So it's at an all-time high. And people like you started in that mentality. You guys are so good at the game, dude. Like, you guys are like I have I have things rattling around in my head that like kind of sound like they're real, but they're not anymore. You know what I mean? It's like I went to school and learned like 7 dead languages.
Yeah.
That don't matter.
Things just get erased. Like,
they're erased, right? And then sometimes they bring something back. And I'm like, wait, am I imagining this? You know what I mean? Like, but it's crazy because 10th, while I acknowledged the game theory objectively, I will say it's the least amount of 40K I've ever played.
Yeah.
And I think it's because they took away a lot of my scheming because of the way we, like, you know, the kind of the free war gear mechanic and the 5 or 10. I'm not saying I have an issue with that. I think that's like kind of a smart decision.
Yeah, sure.
Because if they sell you a box of Terminators and these are the weapons that come in the box, isn't it smarter that the data sheet reflects that?
Yeah.
Versus you can do things that technically aren't in the box. So that makes streamlined sense. And 5 or 10 also makes sense. Yeah. But when it comes to scheming, I find myself like getting to the final conclusion so fast. I want this, and this. Well, there's nothing I can do to tweak that. Yeah. Nothing I can do to massage the points. It's like either drop a unit, add a unit. That's it. And so I get to the result I want so fast, I don't find myself like falling asleep in bed playing an army builder anymore.
Yeah.
Like so I think the scheming, the lack of overall scheming has led me to less 40K than ever before.
Yeah, I hear, man.
But though I love it. And I think it's incredibly well balanced. And I think the patches and the hot fixes are so well done because people used to have to wait like years, bro.
Yeah, I've heard people, I would say stories of people being like, oh yeah, the next time we got an update was when it randomly got published in an issue of White Dwarf and someone happened to read it. And if you didn't read it, then
you didn't even know it existed, bro. You didn't even know it existed. Yeah. I mean, dudes were playing the paperback black and white Orc Codex for like a decade, bro.
Yeah.
Like, bro, that's awful. Like Dark Eldar, oh my God. We were like in like 5th edition or 4th edition, maybe 5th. We had hardback full color codexes and you'd play against the dude with his black and white paper codex. I was like, oh, I can't believe that's still a thing, dude. You know what I mean? Like
we're chatting on YouTube and Twitch, and you guys are building a luxury resort like getaway for Warhammer 40K. We've got almost 13,500 Death Guard players subscribing to a channel on YouTube, and we're going and playing at events in Las Vegas and London, and it's not bad.
Let me ask you, when's your next trip to America?
It probably will be LVO next year, I think. But if it would have been January, like so. But I don't know. Like I'm really tempted to go. I would like to go and check out one of the other US events.
I will say, like, the two big ones are Adepticon and LVO for sure. Now, if you're super caught up in your ITC points and stuff like that, if that's what you really matters to you, LVO for sure. Yeah, I mean, right?
I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'm never playing for like best Death Guard player in the world or anything like that. But it's like I just enjoy going to a table and playing an army I probably don't get to play in my local scene.
I would say Adepticon then. Start thinking Adepticon.
Yeah, and just someone who's playing it in a way that's like they're just bringing, like, you have no idea what someone's going to put on the table. And that is, for me, is a real fun of it. And then just kind of getting to know that person's play style and like, having a competitive game, but also meeting somebody else like that.
No, you can't play 40K by yourself. That's the best part of the hobby.
Joe from War Games Live says it the best, which is 40K is a game where it's you and your opponent versus the rules. Mm-hmm. Like that's totally what 40K is. It's like
no game of 40K has ever been played correct.
Yeah, no, of course it hasn't. Like, and also you should. It's also a game that you play together, even in your opponent's turn again.
Cooperative competition.
Yeah. Like I was played in London. I played versus with a Tyrannist player, and I've been playing quite a bit more than him. But in his turn, he's like, do you think this is the right thing to do? And I was like, actually, if I were you, like genuinely, I would be doing this. Like, this is a better play against me in this situation for you. Like, and it's like there's no other game that you play against that you help your opponent.
Yeah, cooperative competition is why it's so fun. There's never been a perfect game of 40K, and every game of Warhammer 40K is like its own game.
Yeah. Right,
because there's something at some point in every game you play that you kind of just make a house rule for. Like almost every game, you're like. That's a weird interaction. I haven't really seen that, whether it be this terrain feature or this or that. And you guys kind of just like mutually say, yeah, we'll just do it that way. Yeah. Every game is like that. And that's what makes it so beautiful. But I would suggest to anybody in the UK who travels to the United States, look into Adepticon. Yeah. If you want the pageantry, it's the closest thing we have to like a Gen Con of 40K. Whereas like LVO built up around the most competitive tournament in the world, essentially. Yeah. And that's what they built a convention around. Adepticon is built it around the convention's experience. So they have the 4-man teams, which is their crowning jewels. They have the singles, which are hard because it's 4 games in one day. They have our doubles. They have the friendly, and they have every other game system under the sun and everything else to do. And they just moved to Milwaukee at the Bard Center. We just did our first Milwaukee Adepticon this year, and it was so fun, dude. Cool. I love them both. I go to both every year. Yeah. But if you can only pick one, I tell everyone the same thing. If you can only pick one, Adepticon.
Cool. Well, that's really good. Well, I think that's a really good positive note to kind of sign off on this. Kenny, thank you so much for your time. And like I said, good to actually get to chat to you after, say, certainly my first kind of veer into seeing you guys playing Death Guard. So hopefully, stay friends of the channel and let's stay connected, man. But hopefully we'll see you back on for some more Death Guard chat.
Thank you for having me.
Cool, man. Take it easy.